Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to talk about one skill that I know as a colorist that has boosted my cinematography. For those of you new to this channel, this was a color grading channel for the longest time, and I am now pivoting to do cinematography, all things filmmaking. As a colorist, I worked on over 60 feature-length films and hundreds of short-form clients with companies like Google, HBO, ESPN, Under Armour, just to name a few. I've worked with a ton of talented DPs, and so I've seen what cinematographers and what filmmakers do that work and don't work when it comes to the image. And now that I'm shooting, I'm wanting to share everything I've learned with you on my channel that's now an all filmmaking channel. So before we jump into this, I just want to give you a little bit of context. Basically, I was shooting a project. It was an all-day shoot outside, and as some of you may know, sometimes it's so bright outside that no matter, what you do with your monitor, the brightness level is jacked all the way to the top, the brightness is all the way up, so you can see what you're doing. You might have a hood on your monitor, and you just can't see what you're shooting. As a colorist, one thing that I do know is that you never really want to trust your on-camera monitor. So what I resorted to was shooting blind, so to speak, which is how I felt with my monitor, and I resorted to using my waveforms and my false color, and I pretty much did a lot of the shoot trusting just that and going back to my colorist skills. And as a colorist, I knew that a lot of DPs, a lot of beginners especially, look at their on-camera monitor, they trust it, even if it's an expensive, high-end, $1,000 monitor, and then it ends up not looking like that in post-production, and they don't know why. They don't understand that those monitors are not in the right shooting conditions, even if they're, quote-unquote calibrated, even if you have a LUT on them. It's very likely that in most situations, you're not shooting what you're actually seeing. So for those of you that don't know how to read a waveform, let me kind of give you a quick rundown of how they work and how they're useful on set. So right now, as I'm shooting this, I have my waveform on now. It looks good on my on-camera monitor, mainly because I'm indoors. I'm in a very controlled environment. But I also know that when I am in my grading suite, that what I'm seeing right now on this on-camera monitor will look pretty different. Things will tend to look much brighter here, much more saturated, much more contrasty, and it's not what I'm actually shooting. It's not what the camera's actually receiving and recording. So let's go over waveforms a little bit. This is generally how they work, and I'm just going to give you the quick rundown. So basically, you have your waveforms turned on, and at the bottom is 0. That represents black. At the top, you have 100. That represents white, or your brightest highlights. And then a few important numbers to remember is the range between 50 to say 70 is where your skin tones should typically be. So why is that range so big, 50 to 70? It's really, not all shots are the same. You might want a high key shot, you might want a low key shot, you might want something that looks dark and moody and cinematic. You might want something that looks a little bit more like it might be in a, high-end, bright commercial video. That might be more in the 70, maybe even 75, depending on what you're shooting and who you're shooting. If you have someone with very light skin, they might be up there in the 70s, 75 maybe, depending on what their skin tone is like. And then if you have someone with darker skin, they might live more like in the 60s, 65, things like that. So those are kind of important numbers. And what's cool about the waveform monitor is that it's literally, you overlay the waveform monitor over your image, and it shows you where everything lives. So for example, right now, I am right in the middle of the shot. Here's my face, and if I look right now at the waveform monitor and I move around like this, I see on the scopes, my body shifting the waveforms back and forth. And if I put my hand up, my key light is here. I can see my hand, and I can see right about where that lives. I can see, for example, in the background, let's go back here, this shady area down here, I can see where that stuff lives. And then if I look at this light, I can see where that kind of peaks. And so it's helping me to know how my exposure looks, where everything's living, and then importantly, it lets me know if something's too dark or too bright. If my waveforms right now were all very low and crushed, or not even crushed, if it were just like very, very low, despite what my monitor is telling me, I would know that this image is most likely very underexposed. And if I'm shooting and there's a window behind me, or even this light here, and I saw in the waveform that that was peaking way above 100, I would know that that light needs to be brought down significantly so that it still has a little bit of range in there that I can control, that I can work with in post-production, and that it's not a big blown out, you know, hotspot basically on screen. Which, by the way, is one of the biggest tells of a beginning cinematographer is they shoot, they don't know how to work with windows, all the windows are blown out, they're all clipped. And if you would have looked on the waveform, you would have noticed that all of your windows are peaked to the top, and there's a flat line basically showing you that all that information is destroyed, it's gone, it's blown out, and there's nothing you can do to it except maybe make it look a little darker, but really that's all clipped. And this all comes back to when I was outside shooting and my monitor was telling me one thing when I was looking at it, I resorted to looking at my waveforms and knowing I don't care what my monitor is telling me about this image, I'm going to trust my waveforms because I know my waveforms are accurate and they're giving me a real representation of what I'm actually shooting. So those are things that you want to think about so that you look at your monitor, you check your shot, you check the waveforms to make sure that backs up what your eyes are actually seeing. And then another thing on top of that is your false color. So I use false color on every shoot when I'm setting up the lights, when I'm, you know, setting up my shots. And false color and waveforms kind of handle the same things in terms of exposure. The only difference is false color codes your image. My monitor right now that I'm working with, which is an OC monitor, skin tones are kind of in the greens. So it's basically telling you that if your skin tones are in that range of greens, which again are between like 50 to 70, that means that your skin tones are quote unquote properly exposed. And then certain color spectrums might mean that something is too dark or crushed. The false color can be used, you know, as some other tool that you have on set to make sure that what you're shooting is what you think you're shooting. And, you know, as I mentioned on my shoot, in that specific situation, I feel like had I relied solely on my on-camera monitor, I think I probably would have severely blown out a lot of stuff in my shot. It's kind of those things that in the rush of shooting, when you're kind of in a hurry and setting things up, it's important to kind of slow down, check your scopes, don't trust your monitor, don't make that the thing that you trust the most and that you're constantly looking at. Part of my process, I always check my false color and I always have my waveforms up and I glance at them, and it's definitely been a lifesaver. All right, so that's it for my video. I hope this was helpful. Like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.